At T-minus 6 hours and 40 minutes and holding, this is Artemis Launch Control. Want to update you on a situation with the weather that was just discussed between the launch director and the launch weather officer. Apparently, we have some storms offshore, generally to the south of the launch complex, that are tracking in our general direction. Some of the cells have lightning in them, and that is just outside of our weather criteria for tanking. Now, the launch director, Charlie Blackwell Thompson, has made the decision to go ahead and start moving forward with tanking, but she let her NASA test director know that she wants to hold off on cryo flow. So these would be the preparations to start beginning tanking, talking about chill down activities. They are now starting to perform those as we also monitor the weather. Launch director has asked for an update in about 8 minutes from now from the launch weather officer, who says that this storm in particular that's coming our way has not shown any sign of weakening yet. He wants to watch it for the next 30 minutes or so, see how it evolves. And again, the launch director will get an update in about 8 minutes or so on that storm. So, to summarize again, we are moving forward with the preparing to load cryogenic propellants into the 2 large propellant tanks. But the launch director has put a hold on actually flowing that propellant due to a potential violation of a weather constraint for tanking. We'll stand by and let you know more when we know it. This is Artemis Launch Control. Another update for you about the weather as we head towards cryoloading for the Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft. The launch weather officer just briefed the launch director and didn't have any new updates other than to say there hasn't been any new lightning production from those storm cells, which are just to our southwest. There's some rain bands coming on shore about 15 miles away, and the launch weather officer wants to keep an eye on those. LWO reporting that we're not quite there at the 20% chance of lightning yet, and so given that, he wants to monitor it another 15 minutes or so he can get to that less than 20% chance of lightning, which is a constraint to begin cryoloading. Meanwhile, launch director Charlie Blackwell Thompson has instructed her team, and they have been working on preparing for cryoload, working through their pre-chill procedures. And at this moment, the core stage and the upper stage, the ICPS, are ready for cryoload. So the launch director asked for another update in 7 minutes. And we will bring that to you once we have it. So again, at the moment, we are holding off on cryoloading. The launch director wanting to hold off until we have cleared the constraint for weather. There's weather approaching from the south. Stand by for more updates. This is Artemis Launch Control. This is Artemis Launch Control. Just got an update from the launch weather officer to the launch director. Currently, we are sitting in a hold for cryo loading. The team has gotten the tanks ready, pre-chilled, and checked off all of the preparations in order to get these tanks loaded with cryo loading. But because this is a very sensitive operation to potential lightning, we are currently in a weather hold at the moment. The launch weather officer telling the launch director that the upstream cells in some storms that are offshore moving in our general direction have developed some more to the point where we're getting some lightning out of them. It's still a fair distance from us right now. If you have weather, you can see this on a weather app. You can see the lines of storms. One in particular has been growing that the LWO was talking about, moving approximately 15 miles per hour in our direction. It could be here within the first critical hour of tanking. And so the launch weather officer says that currently we are violating the constraint, the weather constraint that lightning prohibits tanking. So no tanking can begin with a better than 20% chance of lightning. And right now, launch weather officer says that has been exceeded based on the forecast that he sees right now. If there's a chance that if we see some weakening, the launch weather officer with the 45th Weather Squadron says that he will be monitoring that. Launch director has asked for a tag up in 10 minutes, and so we'll get another update and then get it right out to you. But again, for the moment, we are holding for cryo loading. This is the big operation where we load the world's largest propellant tanks with super chilled liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen, more than 733 gallons of propellant. It is quite an operation. It is an elaborate and complex operation that cannot have any lightning in or around the pad as they begin, especially in that first hour of tanking. And so we'll keep you informed with updates, but for now, this is Artemis Launch Control. while we're waiting, want to go over the weather criteria with you for tanking. So when it comes to lightning, the tanking lightning constraint is there must be a less than 20% chance of lightning within 5 nautical miles of the launch pad during the first hour of tanking for the core stage and the first hour of tanking for the ICPS, the interim cryogenic propulsion stage. And currently, we are violating that constraint with a greater than 20% chance of lightning within that first hour. There's also a tanking wind constraint, but we're well below that. The wind constraint is must be lower than a sustained wind of 37 knots, with a peak wind of 52 knots, well below that constraint. And there's also a temperature constraint, but being that it's summertime, we are not going to have a problem with this one. It's just to let you know for information, it's 41.4 degrees Fahrenheit. And currently, we're in the range of 80. Not going to be a problem there, but we do have these storms offshore tracking in our direction. Going to have another update from the launch weather officer in just a moment. The launch director has asked for regular updates, and once she is briefed, we will let you know. Artemis Launch Control. This is Artemis Launch Control with another update on the weather situation, which currently has us in a hold for loading cryogenic propellants into the Space Launch System rocket this morning. The launch weather officer says he sees some encouraging signs that the system that's drifting towards us and could be within a 5 nautical mile ring around the pad is going to be here within the hour. And at the moment, there's still a 30% chance of violation due to lightning inside that storm cell. But the launch weather officer reporting that the trend is that they are seeing a little bit of dissipation in that storm. And that's an encouraging sign. The launch director has asked LWO that when enough dissipation has been seen to drop it down to the 20% mark, which would then allow tanking to begin. She's asked him to come up on her main communication channel and let her know about that. Otherwise, we'll be getting another update in 5 minutes at 1 a.m. Meanwhile, the launch team has been working and getting some work ahead, the team doing all the work that is not connected to cryoloading so that they are ahead in the countdown and ready to go. But as for cryoloading, that is on hold. You see the clock in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, currently holding at T-minus 6 hours and 40 minutes. That is a pre-planned hold and is not connected to the weather hold. Tanking will begin before that clock starts. Again, this is a 2.5-hour hold that we are in the midst of due to the timeline being extended from some lessons learned through wet dress rehearsal number 4, which was a tanking operation in which the team completely tanked the rocket. You can see now, if you look at your screen, that rain has arrived from a storm just ahead of the one that they're concerned about. And so we've got rain at the launch pad. Rain is not the problem at the moment. Lightning is. But you can see that rain coming down at a pretty good clip. Again, that weather is what is holding us up at the moment. We're in a weather hold for cryotanking. Especially sensitive is the first hour of cryotanking, where any lightning in the area when they're starting to fill the tank creates a high risk to the tanking operation. Once they get going in the tanking, that risk goes down. Listening to the launch team now. But that's a great shot there of the rain cascading off the outer shell. Underneath that is the Orion spacecraft. Stand by for more updates. We'll let you know as soon as the launch director is given the most recent weather update. This is Artemis Launch Control. Got another weather update for you. The launch weather officer for the 45th Weather Squadron just updating the launch director about the current situation, the weather hold that we are in, which is a constraint towards beginning the tanking of the rocket that you see here at Launch Complex 39B at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida. Launch weather officer saying there are still some encouraging signs with regards to the storms offshore of us, just to the southeast of us, making their way about 15 miles per hour. LWO describing it as kind of a whack-a-mole situation at the moment. The storm system that was a concern showing some weakening with regards to its capacity for lightning. However, a new cell popped up in the northeast area. It is inside the ring of concern, which is 5 nautical miles from the launch pad. It's barely inside it, though. No lightning at the moment, but LWO says past storm performance says that they could get some lightning out of it. So he wants to watch it for a little bit, wants to get more evaluation with the radar scans that they do on the storms. And we expect to get another update to the launch director at 10 after the hour, 1:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Until then, the launch team has been getting ready and preparing this rocket, configuring systems. They've got it all the way up to the point in which they're ready to fire up the pumps that start pushing the propellant and pre-chilling the lines, but they're holding off, waiting for a release from the weather constraint. And so we'll stand by for another update there. This is Artemis Launch Control. We have an update for you now. Good news, as you see the rain falling there at Launch Complex 39B. Let me catch this update here. Okay. Sorry about that, listening to the NASA test director. They're firing up the CERT pumps. Tanking is good to go. Okay, so we did get an update from the launch weather officer and to the launch director, which said we are below the 20% threshold now for lightning within 5 nautical miles of the pad. Great news. That means that tanking may proceed. Launch director let the NASA test director know that they have to go to fire it up, and they were standing on ready. They fired up the CERT pumps right away, and so the pre-chilling of the system has now begun. As you look there, you can see the rain on the launch pad coming down from the top of the rocket. The rain is not a problem. The lightning was, but now we are out of that weather hold as of 1:13 a.m. Eastern Time. So a little bit of a delay, but now we're moving forward. The launch team, had been configuring their systems that were not related to cryoloading, and they were sitting on the edge of ready. So once the go came forward and the weather constraint was lifted, the team fired up the pumps, and now we are pre-chilling the lines. Stand by. Okay, and just another brief update there. We are currently in the T-minus 6 hour and 40-minute hold. This is a pre-planned hold. We will be in this hold for another half hour or so, 45 minutes. This is a hold that was extended out when the timeline for tanking was increased, but it is not part of the weather hold that we were just released from. So the team is beginning operations to cryoload, which includes pre-chilling the lines from the tanks that run to the rocket. That's good news. Although there is rain at the pad, and that would constrain a launch, it won't stop tanking. So this weather surely to be out of the area well before then. But the launch weather officer will be keeping a close eye on all the action offshore. Again, the storm cells that were offshore in our area have had enough dissipation in their energy to remove the lightning constraint, only now 20% chance, which is within the limits to allow cryoloading to begin. And so now we'll keep you updated on all the milestones as they pass. This is Artemis Launch Control. The core stage liquid oxygen transfer chill down is now in work. Core stage LO2 transfer chill down is in work. This is the pre-chilling of the lines that run from the cryosphere and the liquid oxygen tank to the rocket. And what they do is they pump a little bit of LO2, enough to push some gas through the line and chill that line down. Okay, we've resumed the countdown. As you can see in the upper left-hand part of your screen, we are out of the pre-planned hold a little sooner than I reported a little bit ago. Apologies for that. We moved through the countdown, the launch team did, and kept their work going. And so now the pre-planned hold, which ran about 2.5 hours, is complete, and we are now starting our T-clock, counting down to liftoff. We'll have another hold. This one will come at T-minus 10 minutes. We'll sit on that for a half hour and then resume the count. So at the moment, T-minus 6 hours, 39 minutes and counting. But time to liftoff is T-minus 7 hours and 8 minutes. Now we expect there may be a change in the T0 time. We're going to allow the team to work that, see how quickly they work through the tanking operation, and see if this weather delay results in any change to the T0 for today. It's likely. We'll see what happens. Of course, we'll keep you updated. As for right now, we're still holding at 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Artemis Launch Control. T-minus 6 hours and 31 minutes and counting. Core stage 2 transfer line chill down is complete. Team now proceeding with liquid oxygen main propulsion system chill down. Again, the transfer line is chilled for the liquid oxygen line. Proceeding with main propulsion system chill down. T-minus 6 hours and 23 minutes and counting until the launch of the Space Launch System and Orion spacecraft. The mission, Artemis 1. T0 time, 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time. Got an update for you here. We are currently in the midst of chilling down the main propulsion system with liquid oxygen. This means the pumps have been started and are moving that super chilled liquid oxygen, which is down to minus 297 degrees Fahrenheit, over the ambient temperature main propulsion system inside of the rocket. And so they want to condition that system to be able to handle when they start flowing liquid through there and fire up open up, I should say, the valves to allow liquid oxygen to start going into the tank on the rocket. And that'll be a big milestone when we reach it. And that's where they're headed towards now. We should have that in a few minutes. They've been chilling down the main propulsion system. We had a little bit of a weather delay to start us off this Monday at midnight. Cost the team about an hour, but the hope is that they can make up that hour over the course of cryoloading. Of course, they have the half-hour hold at T-minus 10 minutes, but then they can also expedite work as we go through these early overnight hours. We don't have a new T0 time. We're currently still at 8:33 a.m. When that gets updated, we'll let you know. Our next milestone is slow fill, and that will mark the beginning of liquid oxygen flowing into the tank of this rocket. This rocket has the largest propellant tanks of any rocket that's been built. And so it'll take some time to fill it, about 3 to 4 hours, depending. We'll keep you updated on the progress. This is Artemis Launch Control. This is Artemis Launch Control with an update now. It was just reported that the LO2 in the transfer line is in drain back. Liquid oxygen is in drain back. The way they chill these lines, they flow a little propellant up through the lines into the main propulsion system, but it's a very small amount, allowing the cold gas, which comes from an almost immediate state change when the liquid oxygen starts flowing into the propulsion system. That cold gas then pre-chills the main propulsion system, and then they pull the liquid oxygen flow back and allow that temperature to drop. They'll be drawing back that liquid oxygen, and then once it's complete, they'll start up the core stage liquid oxygen slow fill. This is Artemis Launch Control. another milestone reached at 0200, 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Drain back is complete, so that liquid oxygen is pulled back, and now they will continue with the chill down of the liquid oxygen line. Ahead of us is the slow fill of the core stage tank with liquid oxygen. It is a 196,000 gallon tank, along with liquid hydrogen, 537,000 gallons. And then you have the upper stage, which together is about 63,000 gallons. Altogether, it's the equivalent of 41 swimming pools, backyard swimming pools, in terms of cryogenic propellants. Okay, and I'm listening now to the launch team, and we have begun core stage liquid oxygen slow fill. The main propulsion system chill down is complete, and we are flowing liquid oxygen into the tank, a major milestone here. Listening to the launch team. So again, we have core stage slow fill underway. And once the core stage starts to fill, we'll start to see a little wisp of vapor coming up about 2/3 the way up the rocket. It'll take a little while, but that's the cold gas, gaseous oxygen, that will be vented out as they fill. NASA test director is currently giving his team the go to proceed with monitoring the core stage liquid oxygen tank. To give you an update and just a recap, we got a little bit of a late start today due to weather offshore. Cost us about an hour before the beginning of cryo load. But once that weather cleared, cryo loading, the preparations to cryo load began. When this rocket is tanked, it starts with the liquid oxygen tank, which is actually midway up the rocket, the upper 2/3 portion of the rocket. It is contained in the butterscotch colored portion, if you will, towards the top of that. The rest of the way down, most of this tank is liquid hydrogen, which comes in at 537,000 gallons. The lower stage and the upper stage are filled sequentially. Only liquid oxygen can be filled in either tank at a time. Stand by for more updates. This is Artemis Launch Control. T-minus 5 hours and 46 minutes and counting until liftoff of Artemis 1. Update for you. We just reached a milestone that the liquid oxygen 2 depletion sensors are greater than 75% wet. What that means is in the core stage, there are sensors at the bottom of the tank that tell it when it is out of fuel. Those depletion sensors are now 75% covered by liquid oxygen. That kicks off the next step, which is preparing to get the liquid hydrogen moving. We have a graphic that we'll show you here in a little bit once we get some numbers for you. We are going to be tracking the progress of the tanking of both the liquid oxygen and liquid hydrogen. But we haven't yet got to 1% yet. When we are tanking this rocket, some interesting information. Core stage liquid oxygen slow fill runs from 0 to 5%. The fast fill, which is a little more than double the speed of the pumps, runs from 5% to 95%, and there are sensors that detect this. So once it goes past 5%, it'll kick into fast fill all the way up to 95%, and then it goes into topping from 95% to 100%, and there's a sensor for that level as well. Then finally, there are 3 100% sensors, a 100 minus, a 100, and a 100 plus, and the software is just cycling valves to keep it at that spot, which is replenish. And replenish will just put back in to the tank what was boiled off. When this propellant is in the tank, it is constantly boiling and constantly losing volume to gas because of the warm conditions. Though the tanks are thermally insulated, the outside of the rocket has a thermal insulation system. That spray-on foam that you see, that's the orangish brown color. But still, it's warm in Florida, and those temperatures of those cryos are minus 297 degrees Fahrenheit for liquid oxygen, so they will boil. You'll notice that the camera tends to pan from time to time, as you're seeing now. And these are some of the cameras we have, our engineering cameras, and they are scanning the rocket, especially during tanking, to make sure there are no leaks. They'll go up and down the rocket. They'll zoom in at little areas, and you can see there some of the gaseous oxygen that is coming out. That line that you see there is the propellant line that runs into the core stage and the upper stage. It is connected to the line that fills the tank in the bottom, the lower core stage, and currently we are filling that liquid oxygen tank, which is, again, midway up the rocket. And we have just hit liquid oxygen fast fill. So we've covered the depletion sensors. The tank's now running twice as fast as they were running for slow fill. Good progress being made. For the cryo loading, this is Artemis Launch Control. This is Artemis Launch Control reaching another milestone here. We are currently at roughly 8% filled on liquid oxygen, and so activity has kicked off on the liquid hydrogen side. Currently we are in slow fill for liquid hydrogen. That milestone was just reached seconds ago. On the liquid hydrogen side, it's different than the filling of liquid oxygen. Liquid oxygen, which is incredibly dense, requires pumps to move it from the cryosphere into the rocket. Liquid hydrogen does not. You may know from your chemistry class, it's the lightest molecule known. And so it is able to, they are able to move it by under pressure using vaporizers to move that fluid across the line. So here's where we stand. We are in fast fill for liquid oxygen and slow fill for liquid hydrogen in the core stage of the Space Launch System rocket. Still looking at a T0 of 8:33 a.m. Eastern Time. Listening to the launch team. These are two important milestones to getting the rocket tanked. To recap, we had a little bit of a weather delay at the start of tanking around midnight. There was some weather offshore that had some lightning potential, and it delayed tanking by roughly about a little more than 45 minutes. The launch team is working to at least try and catch up with some of that, so they have not issued a new T0 time. They are working to get through some of the steps for the ICPS while tanking the lower stage, the core stage. And if they can get enough work done on pre-work on the ICPS, they can catch up a little bit on the clock. Currently, we are T-minus 5 hours, 34 minutes, and counting. T-minus 5 hours and 19 minutes and counting here at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida at Launch Complex 39B, the SLS rocket and Orion spacecraft on the pad. We are currently in the midst of cryoloading. We are filling both of the largest propellant tanks in the world, which are contained in the core stage at the center of the rocket. It's the butterscotch colored portion of the rocket, right about 14% full on the liquid oxygen side. We are in slow fill for the liquid hydrogen side. Have to get above 5% before it goes to fast fill. Liquid hydrogen is pumped into the rocket from a cryosphere nearby. LH2 is also fed from a cryosphere, but no pumps are required. It's extremely light. It can use the natural pressure by vaporizing some of the fluid in the tank, and that is enough to push that extremely light liquid hydrogen into the tank. There's a good shot of the lower portion of the core stage. You see the two boosters on either side. Those are filled with solid propellant, and so they were loaded quite a while ago. At the top of the rocket, you see Orion, the Orion spacecraft covered by the launch abort system. To recap, we got a little bit of a delay from the weather, about 45 minutes. But the launch team is working to catch up. This is Artemis Launch Control. We are T-minus 5 hours and counting until the launch of the Space Launch System and Orion capsule. From here at the Kennedy Space Center, you're looking down the bottom of the rocket, the core stage, and the two solid rocket boosters on either side. We have an update on the tanking. We are in fast fill for liquid oxygen. Currently, the tank's sitting around 24% full. We are in slow fill for the hydrogen tank, which is also contained in the lower part of the core stage. We're currently roughly around 4% filled. The core stage liquid oxygen is the long pole in the tent today. It takes roughly 2 hours and 40 minutes. Liquid oxygen is quite dense and heavy. It requires pumps to get it into the tank. LOX is 12 pounds per gallon density, while on the other side, liquid hydrogen is roughly 0.4 pounds per gallon. So it fills a lot faster, but we haven't reached the 5% threshold. We're in slow fill at the moment. Once we get past 5%, we go into fast fill. I'm listening to the launch team now discuss tanking. The team has been working to catch up after a roughly 47-minute delay due to weather. Right around midnight, we had storms offshore with lightning inside, and that violated a constraint for weather to begin tanking due to it being a higher than 20% chance within 5 nautical miles. The launch director held off on tanking until the weather cleared, and then tanking began. We've been tanking now for a little more than an hour and a half. Stand by. Okay, I was listening into the launch team. So again, update on the tanks on the core stage, 26% filled on the LOX side and 7% filled on the liquid hydrogen side. There is a constraint called the aft strut constraint that says that LOX can't be above 50% before we have an update. LH2 is in stop flow. This update just in. Stand by for more information. This is Artemis Launch Control. Again, we have stop flow on the liquid hydrogen side, and we are continuing to fill on the liquid oxygen side. Stand by for an update. Just an update again. If you didn't catch it, we have stop flow on the liquid hydrogen side. Again, stop flow on the liquid hydrogen side. Stand by. Okay, an update now on the liquid hydrogen stop flow. The hydrogen team reporting up to the NASA test director that as they were getting into fast fill, which is just past 5%, slow fill takes it from 0 to 5, they started seeing a leak trending up on the tail mast service umbilical purge can. And that's a violation of HASGAS rules. They put it in a stable revert configuration, and the concentrations of hydrogen came down to less than 1%. No safing actions are required at this time. The team is assessing the issue and working it. But for now, we have a hold on the hydrogen. Liquid oxygen team is monitoring this situation due to the aft strut constraint. The aft strut constraint essentially says that liquid oxygen can't go above 50% before we have at least 5% LHY in the tank. And though we are above 5%, we're 30% in the LOX tank, 7% in hydrogen. With no more hydrogen going into the tank, what's in there is boiling and boiling off, which is natural. So liquid oxygen team reporting that they will be monitoring the situation. When we have more information, we'll let you know. In the meantime, this is Artemis Launch Control. T-minus 4 hours and 42 seconds. Have an update now on the stop flow on the liquid hydrogen side as the liquid oxygen continues to fill, currently at 34%. The liquid hydrogen team updated the NASA test director. Stand by. Okay, so here is the plan. The liquid hydrogen team presented a plan to the NASA test director and the launch director, who both signed off on it. And here's what it is. They want to resume the slow flow. So they're going to start back up with cryotanking the liquid hydrogen into the core stage. No exact time on exactly how long they'll stay in slow flow, but they want to maintain a slow fill rate, and then verify that that purge can concentration is stable. And once they reach that, they'll resume fast fill. They'll resume fast fill, which is roughly 10 times faster than slow fill, and then check to see if that concentration goes back up, that being a concentration of hydrogen in the can there. And if it does, if it goes up past 4%, then they will stop fill and go back into revert. They're giving it another try. It's also troubleshooting to help determine exactly where the leak